So in just a second, I want to show you a clip of Tim Ryan absolutely obliterating Republicans live on the House floor. He calls out in about a minute the absolute hypocrisy when it comes to Republicans saying they care about the working class.
Mr. Speaker, one of the earlier speakers said, "This is the most dramatic change in labor law in 80 years." And I say, thank God. In the late 70s, a CEO made 35 times the worker. Today, it's 300 to 400 times the worker. And our friends on the other side running around with their hair on fire. Heaven forbid we pass something that's going to help the damn workers in the United States of America. Heaven forbid we tilt the balance that has been going in the wrong direction for 50 years. We talk about pensions, you complain. We talk about the minimum wage increase, you complain. We talk about giving them the right to organize, you complain. But if we were passing a tax cut here, you'd be all getting in line to vote yes for it. Now stop talking about Dr. Seuss and start working with us on behalf of the American workers. I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman yields.
And so that line about Dr. Seuss is just perfect, guys. Like, stop talking about the culture war and actually help some working class people. And he's talking about the PRO Act. The Democrats in the House today are really pushing labor legislation. It's not all the way it needs to go. There's still a lot to do, but it would be the most pro-labor legislation in decades, maybe since the New Deal, but certainly since the 1950s and 1960s. And it would make it easier for workers to join a union. It would be part of a broader push to raise the minimum wage. It would make it harder for employers to discriminate against their workers in general and when they're trying to form a union. And that is so important. Everyone in the House is really rallying together. You saw Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib and Pramila Jayapal and the progressives talk about it, trying to challenge right-to-work laws. And Republicans are against this. And it's so telling because the Republican Party in recent years especially has tried to take a quote-unquote populist turn, tried to become populist conservatives, trying to suggest that they're no longer the big business, ivory tower, three-piece suit Republicans of Mitt Romney and of Jeb Bush and of George Bush. They're the populist conservatives. You see, Ted Cruz repeatedly tried to say that, the Democrats have abandoned working people. The Democrats have failed the working class. And look, to an extent, especially in the neoliberal years of the 90s, that was sort of true, but the Republicans have never been for workers. The Republican Party has always been against workers. And so, this really does expose it because they say they support the working class, but they oppose higher minimum wages. They oppose better labor standards. They oppose health and safety regulations. They oppose making it easier for workers to join a union. They oppose making it harder for employers to discriminate against workers and trying to form a union. They oppose all of that. So when people try to tell you that the Republican Party is the real party of the working class, where is the bread and butter? Because much like the minimum wage, no Republican is going to support this. Not a single Republican supported the stimulus package when it included a minimum wage, or even when it didn't. Not a single Republican wanted to give the working class a decent wage. None of them. Not a single one. Some Republicans wanted to raise it to like $10, $11 by 2025, when $15 by 2025 is already the compromise. People need to realize that the Republican Party gives absolutely zero damns about working people. And the Democratic Party, frankly, doesn't give enough, but there's at least some people in that party that are trying to make it better. Look at this graph. This shows everything you need to know. When unions were strong, when unions grew in the post-war era, society was relatively equal. It was still unequal. There was still a lot of injustice, but look at the split in the graph. Look at what happened. When unions became weaker in the 70s and 80s and 90s and onward, the rich got richer and richer and richer and richer. The top 10%, and especially the top 1%, and especially the top 0.1% and 0.1%, the uber wealthy, they get richer when unions are weaker. Republicans know that. If they want to support the working class, they'll have to stand against their billionaire donors. They'll never do that. Ted Cruz, they're all frauds.